Hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to annotate the poem Count Time by Jimmy Santiago Baca as one of our smaller studies that links with the Advanced English module, Narratives That Shape Our World, as a further exploration of the concept of the other that also links with our contextual study of Othello. I also apologise if I sound strange, my hay fever is playing up. So, with that out of the way, let's get to annotating. Okay, the poem reads, Everybody to sleep the guard symbolises, on his late night tours of the tombs. When he leaves, after counting still bodies wrapped in white sheets, when he goes, the bodies slowly move in solitary ritual, counting lost days, mounting memories, numbering like sand grains. The winds drag over high mountains to their lonely deaths. Like elephants they go bury themselves under dreamlike waterfalls in the silence. The poem Count Time by Jimmy Santiago Baca is sharing the personal experience which he endured while he was in prison and is symbolic for the cycle of incarceration and represents this us versus them concept. This links with the concept of the other that we study within this module. This us versus them concept links to the concept of the other because it shares the same ideas and principles. Baca is a Mexican-American man and refers to himself as a Chicano in many TED Talks and presentations. Chicano is an identifier term used during the 1940s, 70s, and even now, which was used as a symbol during the Chicano movement. During this time, discrimination was rampant throughout America, which led to many Mexican Americans becoming the other based on their race. However, Baca himself is also the other. As he explains within episode 1143 of New Mexico in Focus, he was illiterate Mexican American and also spoke differently than others, and therefore becomes the outsider in things that weren't even in his control. Eventually, he learned that he could communicate through words and began to write, which brings us to the poem Count Time. Count Time can be separated into two different stanzas, which when we take a closer look at them, they do not contain a lot of punctuation, which causes them to flow into one another, which is a technique known as enjambment. The title Count Time is also important because it tells us what the poem is going to be about. The phrase count time is a reference to counting prisoners and also their sentence within the prison. Late night tours of the tombs is a morbid metaphor for prison cells. The tombs are the prison cells, which indicates Baca and his inmates are trapped and symbolizes the non-existent life of the prisoners and the cycle of incarceration. Counting still bodies wrapped in white sheets is symbolic of body bags or crypts and is the extension of the tomb metaphor. Baca speaks as if him and his inmates are dead when they are alive, which shows that they really aren't living, they're just existing. The bodies move in solitary ritual. The phrase the bodies is dehumanizing of the prisoners and reinforces that idea of just existing. Solitary rituals creates this sense of together but alone and is an illusion of a funeral. The slowly move is a metaphor for the extension of time. Counting lost days, mounting memories creates this sense of mourning and loss, which is ironic because the prisoners aren't actually dead, but they are grieving the loss of their life. Numbering like sand grains using the visual imagery of an hourglass as a simile for a time loop. Counting lost days, mounting memories, numbering like sand grains. Here Barker is addressing the fact that within the prison walls there is a lot of time to just sit and think, using that sense of a time loop and things are moving quite slowly. You could almost feel every minute and every second that passes by. The winds drag over high mountains. Baca utilizes a switch in imagery to represent the outdoors, which symbolizes a long-awaited freedom for him and his inmates' experiences after they have lived out their sentences. However, to their lonely deaths, like elephants they go bury themselves, is a simile for an elephant graveyard. The term elephants is a metaphor for the prisoners. They know they are dying, so they walk themselves to their death. Baca is making a statement about the cycle of incarceration, that once your sentence is up, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Life hits you hard in the face, and the reality is it'll never be the same. Because you now have a big red line under your name, and people treat you differently to everyone else, instantly throwing you in the too hard basket. You may even end up back in prison, which also directly links to the concept of the other that we study within this module. Under dreamlike waterfalls, again there is this use of a simile. It's a reference to the welcoming and peaceful end of life. Life is so monotonous. The prisoners have accepted that life will never once be how it was. In the silence. Again, there is this together but alone idea. We are all together in society, however, we are completely isolated from the love we once had, leaving us alone. The full stop at the very end of this poem indicates the final end and is symbolic to the end of life.